the watered down version of the laws of attraction. This is slide number 79. The watered down version of the laws of attraction, as propagated by things like The Secret, that tells you you have to just think about it and hold an emotion and it'll come to you. You know? It's all removing the sacred masculine component of action. That action is required in the real world to make happen, to manifest what you're going to manifest, what you want to manifest. You know, it's all based on service to self, too, as I talk about in slide number 80. It's about what do you want for you. Oh, you want that new job, you want that new car, you want that new house, you know, you want that new relationship. It's all about self-service, largely. Overwhelmingly, I really should say. Not even just largely, but overwhelmingly. You know, it's about looking at only your microcosmic situation. It never talks about how do you want to influence people's mind and behavior in a big way so that they will stop acting in a capacity of coercion and violence and supporting that and thinking that is okay to allow to just continue on unchallenged. Never gets into anything like that. It never gets into how we are creating our reality on a mass scale, in the aggregate. No, it talks about it trying to give you this notion that you're creating your reality individually. That you're attracting violence to you. No, I'm not attracting. Someone actually had the nerve to tell me that we attracted that situation to ourselves. Really? Really? No, ignorance attracted that situation to us. Not our ignorance, because we know what our rights are. The ignorance of society, of other people who abandon common sense and morality. That's what attracted that situation to us. Make no mistake about it. It was not us. We're doing what is right and doing a duty to inform people about what is wrong and how they're being taken. So don't give me the bullshit, which is exactly what it is, that somehow I attracted that situation. No, the ignorance of other people attracted that situation and its prevalence in society. The prevalence of that ignorance in society. Okay? That's like saying the Jews attracted the situation that happened to them in Nazi Germany. Yeah, they attracted the gas chambers to themselves. I mean, people who think this way are total dunces. Total dunces. And that's just how it has to be said. Because they've bought a total lie about how the laws of attraction operate. A total lie. That's put there by dark occultists to get you to think of as the victim as the perpetrator. And there is such a thing. There are victims and perpetrators. There are people who are doing things that are bad to other people. Get over it. It's not just an experience. No, it's a wrongdoing. It's an injustice that should not be allowed to stand and continue. So get over your new age bullshit of it's just an experience and those people attracted that to themselves. Whatever people. I mean, really, this is how destroyed someone's mind is, that they accept this nonsense? Really? I mean, you know, hopefully there's people out there with a little bit of common sense still that can understand how much total trash these teachings are. Trash. And they have nothing whatsoever to do with the real laws of attraction. The real laws of attraction are natural law, which are never spoken of once in any aspect of the teachings of the so-called laws of attraction in the New Age movement. It's never mentioned. You want to know why? Because that's the deepest occulted information, and the New Age movement has no idea that it even exists. Because they've bought the occultist's agenda unknowingly to hide the truth about natural law as the real laws of attraction, and they're peddling this total, utter bullshit version, which is exactly what it is. Total bullshit based in ego. As I show on slide number 81. It's all about the self, service to self. That's it. And ultimately, it's bullshit. So, let's offer a correction and try to get people to understand how the real laws of attraction operate. And again, this is what the whole New Age seminar, the whole natural law seminar is going to be about. I guess this is the New Age seminar right now, teaching people what the New Age movement really is. You're in the New Age seminar right now, you know? A mini seminar on the deceptions of the New Age. The natural law seminar is going to explain about how the real laws of attraction operate. So let's get into this. Of course, the New Age movement's variation of the laws of attraction do not include action. They leave action out of the equation. Once again, this is the suppression of the sacred masculine. They all constantly talk about thoughts, holding a thought in your mind, a vision in your mind, and then feeling an emotion about it. But they leave out the action part. That alone is not going to make anything change in the real world. Get over it. Sorry, that's not how it works. You need to take action to put into effect what you're holding in your mind and in your emotional self. Action is required to make change happen in the world. It doesn't just automatically happen because you want it to. The real law of attraction is natural law, on slide number 84 now. And my working definition for natural law is the universal, non-man-made, binding, and immutable conditions that govern the consequences of behavior. We've talked about this endlessly on this show. I'll just briefly go over this. Universal. It exists everywhere in creation. There's nowhere it is not operating. It's non-man-made. That means it is inherent to creation itself. Man didn't make up these laws. Creation made these laws. They're boundary conditions to the universe. Binding. That means they're operating at all places, all times. You are bound by them, whether you understand them, agree with them, know about them, or are ignorant about them. It doesn't matter. Belief is irrelevant. They are binding. It's just like gravity. Doesn't matter how much you know about gravity, whether you believe it exists, you're bound by it. The end. Same thing with natural law. Immutable. That means they cannot be changed. They weren't put into effect by man, therefore they cannot be changed by man. They're not negotiable. They are, you're bound by them, it's unchangeable, and that's it. They govern the consequences of human behavior. These are boundary conditions that govern what actually occurs as a result of what free will decisions we make and then what actions we take as a result of those decisions. That's how natural law operates. And again, the seminar will be going into this very in depth, giving many examples and many related works for people to study as well. So the expressions of natural law, which we've talked about, and I'll go through these quickly, are a positive expression and a negative expression. When we work with a certain polarity, and again, this is on slide 85, when we work with a certain generative polarity, either the positive one or the negative aspect, we're going to eventually create a specific result in our lives. If we work with the positive expression of the generative polarity called love, we will seek truth and acquire knowledge. This is how the expression begins. It's what I call the initiative expression in the positive sense. Seeking truth and acquiring knowledge. When we do that, we move toward an internal expression within ourselves of natural law. And this is called sovereignty. We already talked about what sovereignty is. It's the recognition that you are not a slave, that you own and rule yourself. And it's even more than that. It's about coming into internal harmony with the self amongst the expressions of your consciousness, unifying your thoughts, emotions, and actions such that you are a being that as you think, so you feel, and so you act. And you're not internally divided. You become an individual, non-divided. This is the state that I call internal monarchy, being the one ruler of the self, monarch. Mon meaning one, and archon meaning ruler from Greek. And we'll look at that word soon. Sovereignty is the truth about what everyone is, what all beings are. We are sovereign. We don't have a ruler, a master, nor do we have slaves. When you understand sovereignty, you understand the inherent legitimacy of slavery, the inherent illegitimacy of slavery. There is no legitimacy to slavery ever. Ever. You are already sovereign. You are not a slave. It's just the problem is most people don't know that, don't understand it. They don't even know what the word sovereign means. When we have that knowledge within, when we've taken in that knowledge and we've actually unified ourselves from within, an external expression flows in the external realm or in the society that we live in called freedom, which is called external anarchy. What I call external anarchy. Real freedom is external anarchy. Anarchy means no rulers. And we'll break down that word later. No rulers. An meaning none, or not there, not present. Archon meaning ruler. When we develop that true condition in the world, there is order. That's the result. That's the generative expression, the result, the manifestation. It's what we would call good in the world. If we use the opposite polarity, which is fear, fear makes us close down. See, love is the expansive force of consciousness that opens our mind and our heart and allows us to seek and accept truth and therefore acquire knowledge. Fear is the force that shuts down consciousness, keeps us not wanting to know, and therefore refusing truth and staying in the initiative expression of natural law in the negative sense called ignorance. Ignorance, as I like to call it. We are ignoring that which is there, thinking that we're going to prosper by ignoring the truth and saying we don't care, we don't want to know. Impossible. There is no such thing as a free people that are ignorant people. Impossible. Those two states cannot exist simultaneously. Ignorance and freedom. It's impossible. When you're ignorant, you're going into a cage. You're going into enslavement. Because you've refused truth. That's the reason. When you refuse truth, you cannot be acting rightly. And there's a reason. Because inside, we're in a state of confusion. In ignorance, when you're in a state of ignorance in the mind, inside, you're confused. You don't know what the reality is. You don't know what the truth is. You don't know what's really going on, either inside you or in the world. And this is internal anarchy. That means inside of you, there's no ruler. And that's a bad thing. We don't want internal anarchy. We want external anarchy. Internal anarchy is a really bad thing. You can never get external anarchy if there's internal anarchy. You can only get external anarchy if there's internal monarchy amongst the population, which is an understanding of their sovereignty. When there's internal confusion, external control follows, the external expression in the negative. It's called control. Externally being controlled by others. Violence being done, in other words. Control is the same thing as violence. Freedom is the same thing as non-aggression. So when people say, I want non-aggression, I want there to be non-violence, the only way you can do that is with these positive expressions. You can never create it with refusal of truth. You're only going to get violence by refusing truth. That's why we have the situation we have. The majority of our society refuses truth, and so we're getting violence in our society. Because we don't know the truth and we're not teaching it to others. Control is what I call external monarchy. Somebody wanting to rule over others. Monarch, one ruler. When it's external, it's very bad, and it's based in violence. So when that's when that's the external expression, the result, the manifestation, the generative expression at the end is chaos. It's the opposite of order. It's what we would call evil. We say we want order, we say we want goodness, but we're not using the polarities that we need to get those things. Nobody's going to tell you, I want chaos and evil in the world and I want to suffer. I want violence done unto me and I want to suffer and I want there to be evil and chaos all around me. Not one person is going to tell you that that's what they want. But they think that they can get the absence of that. Okay, they think they can get the opposite of that, which is order and good and freedom, by continuing to stay in fear, which is having a shutdown consciousness, and stay in ignorance, which is the refusal of truth. And it doesn't work that way. If you are using the polarity, the generative polarity at the top, you can never create anything on the opposite side. So if you're using love, you can only create knowledge, sovereignty, freedom, order, and goodness. If you're using fear, you can only create ignorance, confusion, control, chaos, and evil. They never move into the opposite column. It's just straight down mechanism. Understand that. More people need to understand how this process works. They don't get it. They don't understand that that's how natural law functions in the world. This is, again, the most occulted information. This is what dark occultists do not want people to understand. And more people need to be talking about this dynamic. Forget all the other things. All the things that are going on in the world are actually distractions to make people not understand that very dynamic about how we are collectively in the aggregate co-creating our reality, not individually creating reality. So many people actually believe each individual is creating a separate reality for themselves. No, you might be creating your own individuated reality in a small sense in your personal life, like your relationships with other people, your job situation, your health situation. You're in control of those things. You're creating the dynamic there. Okay, about what you're doing on a daily basis, how the state of health that you're in. You still have a large amount of control over those things to create that type of a personal reality. You individually are not creating the reality that's going on across the whole world. This is a total misunderstanding of the laws of attraction. And the New Age movement propagates this belief that each individual is creating the whole reality. They actually believe that. People actually believe that. And that's solipsism. It's what it comes down to. It's the propagation of solipsism. That you're everything. That just your individuated consciousness is everything. You're God. You're the arbiter of truth. You're making everything up. It's just such nonsense. I mean, just looking at it with common sense disproves it. Just, that these people think you're generating the entire reality, that there's no one else there doing anything. No, there's 7 billion other people who are thinking thoughts in their mind that are largely erroneous, and they're creating a situation, and you're going to be tied up in that even if you do understand the non-aggression principle, because not enough people spoke about the truth to get other people to understand it, and it's still going to affect you. You're not going to magically escape the police state because you think you're creating your own reality in your own mind. I mean, people are just so naive. And again, this is the hallmark of a right-brained, imbalanced person. They're naive. They will accept and buy anything that they want to hear that's comforting to them, like a child. You tell a child, everything's going to be all right. You're the one who's in control of all of it. And the child wants to believe that because they're naive. They want to believe everything's just going to magically be okay and they're going to be insulated from it. Hey, the monsters aren't going to get you. You're special. You're creating your own reality. No, you're going to be affected by what happens in the aggregate consciousness. Because we're all in this together. Okay? So get out of the notion that you're creating your reality separately, because it doesn't work that way. What the real laws of attraction are about is service to truth, as I've put here on slide number 86. Understanding and helping to propagate the understanding of the expressions of natural law is moving out of your own service to self mentality and getting into a service to truth mentality. This is how it actually does work. The laws of attraction actually do work this way, not the way that they're being portrayed in The Secret. Okay? So understanding and expressing that, coming to an understanding of that, and then helping to express that to other people is stepping outside of service to self. And it's moving into service to others, but it even goes beyond service to others. It's moving into service to truth, which is what ultimately we have to be in if we're going to change this situation. So, continuing with this correction, to strike down the notion that a single individual is creating the shared reality by themselves, which is nonsense, we co-create our shared reality in the aggregate. Individual choices, which are either based in harmony to or opposition to natural law, influence the quality of the shared experience. We're all bringing a part of that energy to the table. This dynamic acts as a perfect expression of the principle of correspondence. As above, so below. As below, so above. Meaning, as all the individuated units of consciousness, the majority of them are thinking, feeling, and acting a certain way, that is what the totality of the society is going to be like, because the society, as a macrocosm, is comprised of the microcosmic units of consciousness. So that society is going to be a reflection of what's going on in the mind, heart, and behaviors of the individuated expressions of that society, called the individuals, the people. That dynamic is created in the aggregate, meaning in the total, taking together all the individual units together. And that's what you're going to be getting as a whole. If you don't change it in enough numbers sense, it does have to do with numbers. So this is the second part of this slide. Conversely to what the New Age movement will tell you, for a quantum shift to take place, numbers are required. There is requirement for making a mass change happen, and that means you have to get enough people, numbers of people, which is what quantum means, an amount of something. The word quantum comes from Latin, surprisingly, and it means amount. So when you're saying a quantum shift needs to take place, yeah, that means an amount, a shift in the amount of people that think a certain way. It doesn't happen by just a small amount of people. This is a lie. It's a very small amount of people do not create change on a mass scale. The people who think a certain way and comprise the majority are who are ultimately affecting the overall quality of the shared experience. You have to get the majority of people understanding the non-aggression principle and self-defense principle together for there to be a true shift in awareness in this society. And ladies and gentlemen, anybody that thinks that's happening on a mass scale, I mean, I think you're delusional. We need millions of teachers of this information. Millions. Not hundreds, not thousands, millions. And we are nowhere near that number. Nowhere near it. Because people are still staying silent. With what's going on in society that they can see with their own eyes, they're afraid to speak. They're still cowards. You're going to see a shift in this dynamic when enough people develop courage. Courage is ultimately what is required. Courage is required even more than knowledge is required, because you're going to need the courage to even know the truth, and then you got to develop the courage further to speak it. And we don't have enough people doing this, which is what I continuously harp upon. I don't want to be the person just doing this amongst all the other few people who are really understand this information and are speaking it to others. It can't be a handful of people. The fact that I'm on the cutting edge of this type of information is disgraceful. It's sickening to me that I sit there and think, wow, I'm the person who's bringing information about natural law forward perhaps more than most anybody else. How could that possibly be? I mean, it's crazy to even think that. I don't hear anybody. There are a few people that really talk about this. A handful of individuals who know it deeply in their own mind and are really speaking that to other people. An understanding of how the real co-creative laws of attraction and natural law work, and how we are co-creating the reality, the shared experience that we are undergoing, needs to be deeply understood by more people. And it needs to be taught by more people who understand it. And again, this is why I'm hosting the Natural Law Seminar. It's not just to get people to understand. I want to move people into the dynamic of being a teacher of this information. We need more teachers of this information, millions of them, that will speak it completely, truthfully, and unapologetically to anybody that will listen. Maybe if we have millions of people doing that, we'll start to see a change, a real change in behavior in the world. Maybe.